Is the Super Nintendo one of the greatest consoles of all time?
Yes.
I believe also.
Yeah.
I think the Super Nintendo, that jump from 8-bit to 16-bit was massive. And if you look at it from a newer generation standpoint, it's a much easier transition to go play. Like, if you're looking at the game, like watching somebody play it or watching YouTube footage or a streamer play it, it's much easier to look at that and be like, wow, that looks good. Like, that looks good.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, you know, processing power increased. It went from 8-bit to 16-bit, as you said. From a development perspective, I think it's kind of stayed in the same court with development because I believe NES was on assembler, and I think that we hadn't quite gotten to C yet with SNES. So you had all of that experience that they gained, developers would gain with the NES that they could then leverage for the SNES. Not that, you know, language is that big of a deal, but the graphics were tremendous.
Yeah, graphically,
ergonomically,
the jump from the 8-bit to 16-bit was it's stunning. Like, some of the games that are on the Super Nintendo that are just like, I think a lot of it has to do with the way that the colors are displayed. Like, they're bright, they're vibrant.
Well, yeah, it has a wider color palette.
Yeah, like it is. Like, they've, like, the backgrounds that they have on it, like, they just nailed it with that console.
But, like, other things that I think about, you know, it was top loading, which made it more convenient. You didn't have that front flap where you had to slide it in.
The eject button.
Yep.
The controller was really nice.
I don't like how they did the reset button, how it had the slide.
Oh, yeah.
I think they could have, like, probably retained, like, a push button functionality for that or done it a different way.
There's been many times where, like, I've, like, bumped it or something, like it was on the floor and I was, like, moving my foot and I bumped it and reset and I was like, no!
Yeah, and, yeah, you know, the controllers were more ergonomic. They introduced 2 new buttons, I believe.
They were they were rounded, so they were more comfortable in your hands. They weren't jabbing you.
That's what ergonomic means.
Whatever. Oh, no!
Oh, shit. So, you know, even from beyond a playability perspective, beyond like a, you know, performance perspective, there were a lot of things that made it more user-friendly or human-centered than the NES was.
Well, and you could save on your games.
What?
Right? Yeah,
No.
you could save on games. Yes.
What game can you save?
Mario World, Link to the Past.
I mean, yeah, it's like
Mario RPG, Chrono Trigger.
There was like, you could save in that regard, but it wasn't like you could save mid-level or like checkpoints or anything like that.
No.
But it wasn't like with, you know, NES where on Mario, like you could be at World 8-2 like you were last night. And,
yeah.
I imagine you were playing it on Switch because you're a little bitch.
No,
but
I was playing it on the Retron back there.
Oh, you're playing on the Retron. So, yeah, you didn't get to save that at all.
No. I was playing it on the Switch just because I want to get better at... I want more repetitions with 8-2 because, dude, that... For some reason, when I get to... Like, 8-1, I can run through no problem. 8-2 is where I just fall apart. Or if I fall apart and lose my Fire Flower in 8-1, like, it's just over.
You're missing the point here. If you want to play 8-2, the whole way, like the way the game was built and designed, you got to earn your way back to it.
I have been on the Retron. I literally just will die and then I'll go back to 1 and, like, it takes me 3 minutes to get back to 8-2.
You're full of shit because you use 2 warp zones to get to 8-2.
Yeah.
It's not how it was designed.
No, it's not how it's designed, but if I'm playing a game and I'm playing a game to beat it, I'm going to beat it how I think I want to beat it or think I should beat it. Like, you know, could I go through and play all the levels? Sure. But they made these secrets for a reason. Like, it's just natural for me to just go through. It would be very hard for me to run through the second level and not get up top and go through. Like, it's so ingrained in my brain to just, like, even if I ran at the lower level up to where, like, the things will take you up to the Warp Zone, I would literally just do the same thing and go up rather than down. It's just hardwired in my brain to just do the warps. Same with Mario 3. It's just, I've done it so many times.
Now, here's the controversial piece of it.
Oh, boy.
I still don't think Super Nintendo stacks up for younger players.
I think it does.
I don't.
I think it does a lot more than the NES, just because of the vibrant colors in the graphics, the smoothness, and the attractability of how good some of these games are. Like, I mean, it's hard to, like, if you're an RPG fan, it's hard to not enjoy 16-bit RPGs. Final Fantasy III, Chrono Trigger, Super Mario RPG is a very charming game. You've got Link, like, those in Earthbound, like, those RPGs are some of the greatest RPGs of all time.
For you.
For everybody.
No, you don't get to talk for everybody.
As a collaborative list of greatest RPGs of all time.
Created by adults?
Created by adults.
Okay, that's my
but
point.
It's going to be created by adults, but it's taken from a lot of information that probably is given from some kids, some adults, you know, the collective gaming community as a whole.
I still think you put a 7-year-old in front of an SNES and only 1 in 5 of them actually maintain attention.
I think it's a little easier for kids to grab onto the Super Nintendo.
I don't. Well, hold up. Easier than what? Because easier is a quantifying statement.
I think it's easier for kids to grab onto the Super Nintendo than it would be for kids to grab onto the regular Nintendo.
And I completely agree with that. I still don't think we've passed that threshold where we can safely say, yes, this console transcends time for everybody.
It's not real. Like, we are looking at it that way, but if you're looking at it from a new gamer standpoint of people that have started on the PS4, started on the PS5, and you take them, set them in a room, and you're just like, all right, play this. But you give them a little bit of everything. You give them a little bit of platformers where it's, you know, Mario World 1 and 2. You give them the Mario All-Stars, which is the redos of Mario 1, 2, and 3 with updated graphics. You put some fighting games in there, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. You give them the RPGs like Chrono Trigger, Earthbound. You give them Link to the Past. You give them Super Mario Kart, F-Zero. You give them Donkey Kong Country. And you just say, try and find one that you will enjoy. It's much, like Turtles in Time even, like, it's much easier for somebody to, like a kid to just pick up a Super Nintendo game, put it in, sight unseen, if they're just like, ooh, Mario, let's check this out. Most likely it's going to be good. Oh, Ninja Turtles, let's check this out. It's going to be good. Donkey Kong. Like, you know, as a whole, you're much more likely to go out into the wild, grab a Super Nintendo game, and come home and have it be worth playing more than the regular Nintendo.
Objectively speaking, I agree.
Yeah, so it's easier for a kid that enjoys games, that wants to look back to the past, or, you know, his dad talks about the Super Nintendo, or even, you know, whatever, has seen Super Nintendo, played some Super Nintendo with his dad or uncle or whoever, grandparents, and they are at a yard sale and they're like, oh, look, here's the Super Nintendo and a handful of games. You want to pick that up, you know, for $50, whatever? And the kid's like, yeah, absolutely. I like Super Nintendo, because they've played it at so-and-so's house. Now he has his own. That selection of games that comes with it is going to be games that are going to be worth playing and are going to probably capture him in some way, shape, or form.
I got to stop you right there and caveat this. Anybody that's watching that has a child knows that if you go to a yard sale and say, do you want this? The answer is yes, regardless of what it is. It could be a rock. It's true.
I don't know about that.
I guarantee you, you have a child, you say yard sale, they're like, let's go. You go and you're like, do you want something? The answer is always yes.
Lydia said no to things at yard sales.
Like what?
Toys.
We need to have a talk. Most kids, I'm fairly confident, will be like, yeah, I want something just to get something. Just because that's a satisfaction thing. It's an approval thing.
Well, yeah, of course. But
you're very lucky. You're very lucky. You hear me? You need to get that New York pizza with the square cut next time. But yeah, so if you quantify your measurement of the Super Nintendo against the Nintendo, duh. Like, I mean,
but
they released it how many years later, and it's got how many more better things? If it didn't do that, I would be concerned. And you're right. It is easier. It is better for kids than the NES. But in the grand scheme of all things holy in the land of video games, I think there are still better options for getting those kids into the retro scene.
I think that there are better options, for sure.
Like,
Definitely.
I mean, shit, buy them a Retron, man. Then they can play all three, and you just spent the money for one.
Yeah,
but
you've got options in terms of like what things you can buy for them to actually play the games on if you want to play actual hardware. Yeah, you have the Retrons, you have other weird things. You have like the little handheld one, like Super Nintendos. You can get the Super Boys. You can get those. You have options. But
handhelds are not a thing.
the Super Boys actually.
We do not do handhelds for children who do not have nostalgia for them.
Shut up. Shut
We
up.
just don't.
You shut up. I think that if you're measuring it for as far back as you can go that will keep an average kid's attention, I think the Super Nintendo is about where you can go.
I think it's N64.
I definitely don't think it's N64. But that's a topic for another time.
No, I think it's N64. You just throw you throw Mario 64 in it. Dude, you throw Mario 64 in it. Tell me there's a kid out there that won't have fun with that.
Ooh, I don't know.
Mario 64 on N64 is better than any Super Nintendo experience for a child.
That's definitely false.
For a
That
child?
is a hard false.
No, you're right. Mario Paint.
I have legitimately had that experience. So
Is that a PS3?
yeah,
It's not going to be in about 5 minutes.
where Lydia wanted to come down and play games, and she wanted to play a Mario game that had Princess Peach. The thing that I thought about that gives you instant Princess Peach was Mario 64, because you see the glass in the princess's castle that shows Princess Peach. So I was like, Mario 64, throw it on. So I gave that to her, and she, ran around, but she was just like, meh. Like, I don't really, like, it was fun for maybe 30 seconds, and then she was ready to move on. But we sat down, and we played Turtles in Time together. And I had to actually tell her, like, all right, we got to stop, like, dinner's done.
Stop right there. The big difference that you just said there is she played Mario 64 and we played Turtles in Time together.
Yes.
There's your difference. That is.
But she's also played it by herself on the arcade back there.
Well, an
where
arcade's a completely different.
I've been down, like, getting a episode or segment ready for the podcast, and she hops on the arcade and she.
That has pageantry. That is a totally different
You
experience.
just love to find any excuse
to
not admit your wrongs.
I admit when I'm wrong, by all means, but I don't think I am here because that is going to engage a child way more than anything else will, simply because it's its own freestanding cabinet in her basement. Like, it's thrilling. Look, it's got the joysticks, it's got the smashing buttons on the top.
She has loved that thing since she was like 2.
You mean since I carried its ass in here with you?
Did you help me carry it in?
I did.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I did. So tell me I don't know when I'm wrong again.
It's not even that heavy.
We carried it up your stairs into your old game room.
It's not that heavy.
And I was like, oh, this is nice. And you were like, yeah, this is my little corner. Tell me I don't like when I'm wrong. I'm just saying that the gravitating force there was that she was doing it with you.
Well, yeah, that's obviously going to have more power, but I think if you're going to play games together, that the Super Nintendo has way more of that, because you can play way more co-op games together than you can with the regular Nintendo, and they're better co-op games that are going to be more engaging for a kid than the N64.
That's a whole different argument. Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. You're also never going to play Super Mario 64 together because it's a one-player game!
Yes.
Damn it!
I know!
Fuck!
But you, like, with Mario 64...
Taking this.
No, you're not.
It's this. Taking this. I already have this.
Do you really?
Yes.
You do not strike me as a person that would own Pokemon Stadium.
I even have the little adapter.
Oh, you do have that. That's right, because you showed me it and it has
with
Pokemon Blue.
Blue in it.
You
That's right.
I'm going to steal that.
How much you want for it? How much you want it for?
I told you I would buy it from you.
I'll give you all right, $300.
Definitely not that much.
$150. I keep the N64 game.
Definitely not that much either.
$100. I keep the N64 game and Blue. You can have the adapter.
You drive a hard bargain, but it's still a no. Now you just made me lose my train of thought.
Like how I did that?
That's fine. That game's not the greatest on N64.
I didn't know they made it on.
Yeah, they have. There was a couple games that came out on PlayStation that also came out on N64. Resident Evil 2 is also one of them. And about Blitz, maybe. I think the Super Nintendo is like the perfect console to like throw to your kid, and I think that they could have a blast on it. It could even be the console that they fall in love with video games on.
They're not terribly easy to find, so I wouldn't
Super
advise.
Nintendos?
So I wouldn't advise throwing it.
Well, they're easy to find.
I mean, they're around, but I wouldn't say.
I guarantee
easy to
if I
find.
I contacted every person in a 50-mile radius to be like, hey, meet me at this place and bring your Super Nintendos. We'd have a lot of Super Nintendos.
There's a lot of people in a 50-mile radius.
Yes, but that doesn't...
My point is, like, the ones that I've seen out there are, like, people are trying to get a lot of money for them, and they're not worth a lot of money.
Dude, that's anything. That is absolutely... Don't even get me started on that tangent. Any video game that people have, they're just like, I have gold, it's worth a fortune. And you look at the games they have, and it's like the absolute most... it's like Madden 2007. And they're like, $50, I know what I have. It's like, well, clearly you don't.
Either way, don't throw your Super Nintendo. They're not making them anymore.
Well, yeah, don't throw your Super Nintendo. But
don't throw your Super Nintendo. Well, only throw your Super Nintendo if you get frustrated with the game.
Maybe. No, don't do that.
Throw it at him.
But
like
yes,
I'm about to.
I think the Super Nintendo is definitely one of the greatest consoles of all time, hands down.
Hey, I got a question.
I think the franchises...
I got a question.
What?
How do these PlayStation 3s respond to water?
Probably not very well, as it is electronic.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, Super Nintendo, one of the greatest consoles of all time. The franchises that it has, the ones that started or the ones that carried and really got their mainstream start from there is just bar none. It is definitely just one of the greatest. You have Chrono Trigger, Link to the Past, Super Mario World 1 and 2, Mario RPG, Super Metroid, Super Mario Kart, Mario All-Stars, Earthbound, Star Fox, F-Zero, Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3, Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat. You've got Final Fantasy 3, you've got Super Star Wars, you've got Mario Paint, you've got...
I told
The
you not to
list-
say it anymore.
The list goes on.
I told you not to say it.
It's a great
It's not.
console. Your
It's
kids will
that,
enjoy
well, yes,
it.
it is, but Metroid is not. I do not want to hear that word ever again.
Metroid.
Knock,
Why
knock.
do you hate Metroid so much?
No, I'm not getting into that here.
I need to know.
Well, you can find
The
out later.
people need to know.
The people
why
don't
you
need to know. You can find out later. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
We will ask the questions.
Yeah, I love the Super Nintendo, and I think it definitely is just top tier.
I think I'm gonna go find a job.
Yeah, I guess I should find